Okay, well, thanks for having us down once again. I think we were talking about, what, maybe 16 years, 17 years, who knows, we lost track. Anyway, it was nice driving down until I pulled off on Brook Hollow and run a piece of steel through my tire. Anyway, we'll get back home. So what we're going to talk about tonight is safety first. You only got one pair of eyes, so you need to have a face shield, face mask, or something that's impact resistant. And you only got one pair of lungs, so you need to use dust mask. And of course, long hair or long shirts, you need to keep them away from something spinning. And what I'm going to show you is how to make a three-wing bowl out of a cube. This is not my idea. We had a guy come up from Louisiana that showed us how to do this, and I thought it was so neat, incoming, that I thought I'd pass it on to you guys. Now, you turn this out of the cube, and the hardest part is to get a perfect cube. If you don't have a perfect cube, you're going to have three wings that's a little bit off. I notice you have a nice cube up here. I'm just about ready to pull that down and start turning on it. We got a handout I'm going to pass around. Now you can do these basically any way. I do it my way. He does it some other way. We won't go there. We won't even talk about his way. So, also on the safety aspect, when you're turning, if you turn this really beautiful piece, you have these chips all in you, and you get ready to go into the house to show DB, and y'all know who DB is by now, right?
Dearly beloved.
Dearly beloved. And she's got you got these chips falling all over on her clean floor, carpet, whatever. That's all she's seeing. So wear some kind of a smock or something that you can take off and leave the chips out in your studio. Everybody has a studio, right?
Yeah.
Right. Right. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Now, like I said, the hardest part of this whole thing is to get your cubes cut perfectly square, or almost perfectly square. You can do them on a bandsaw or a table saw. Has anybody seen this demo, how you take a cube and make a three-wing box out of it?
I have.
A couple have. Okay, so I'm doing it my way. I think there's a couple YouTube videos out there on it also, but it's always kind of see it firsthand. I'm going to pass around a couple examples so you can kind of get an idea, and I'll let my trusty Crip over here pass these around. Now they do have lids on them, the lids will fall off. I also experiment some with the cactus juice from Curtis Seaback up in south of San Marcos. I don't know how many of you use that stuff, but it really stabilizes the wood. I will tell you though that maple is not a good wood to try to dye or put stabilization on. You might separate those. Because maple is so hard, the cactus juice really don't soak into it really well. So the orange one was with cactus juice, and you can see it didn't soak in too well. This is Claro walnut. Now this lid, the top is not glued in. It's just setting in there, friction fit. So these are little keepsake boxes that DB could put her diamond earrings in, right? Right.
And if you actually make a mistake, you can make a real small bowl.
Yeah. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, how to make those small bowls.
The mistake is not buying DB diamond earrings.
Yeah. We need to talk about diamond earrings? So these are just some examples. Of course, the larger the cube you have, the larger box you can make out of it. And you can make any kind of finial that you want to put on them. I would recommend watching the Cindy Droza video. Have you seen that, the elegant finials? I mean, I can't do what she does, but you know, if you watch that video, you can come up with some really nice finials. Now, I do have a few pieces right here that I practice on, and the one on the right is what I start with and then make the elements and stuff like that. And you can do any type of element that you want on the finials. So any questions on any of that? Okay, we've got the handout going around, right? I'm not going to follow the handout. So one of the things I found on hard maple is I coat all corners with CA glue, thin CA glue. It stabilizes the fibers. You don't really have to do that, but I found out it keeps helps prevent the chip out so much. Now on really soft box elder, it's best on that to stabilize it. And then what's nice about box elder, because it's kind of soft, you can dye it in numerous colors. Now to turn this cube, I'll pass this around so you can take a look at it. And now I marked on this one, I guess you can see that, where the grain orientation is. I wouldn't do that at home, I know where, I'll just look at it, because you want to have the grain orientation as much as you can parallel with your bed ways. So I put it in here like this, and get used to your machine here. Now this is one of the safest ways you can actually turn wood, because it's captured between your headstock and the tailstock. Okay? Now turning these, you can use about any tool that you've got in your arsenal. Of course, I've got some new tools that I really like to use. I've demonstrated them in the past, the Hunter carbide tools. They take out a real small cut, but they cut really nice because they're extremely sharp. And I have a number 1 Hunter tool here that we'll give to the president, whoever, and this will go in your raffle.
Okay.
And then
He saw that.
keep an eye on him. And then later, I'm going to get rid of these right now. Vincent Welch from Louisville, Kentucky. It's not Louisville, it's Louisville. Here's a packet of sandpaper from 80 grit to 400 grit. I'll be using that in a little bit. Do you have a shorter tool rest, or is this it? Okay.
Yes, we do.
Now, one of the things,
Does anybody have a pencil?
right over there. One of the things you can do is not really necessary. I don't do it at home. But if you have your cube, you can mark your tool rest where the point of the cube is, and when you turn it around, you'll see the other point exactly the same where that mark is. That means your cube is perfectly square. If your cube is not perfectly square, you're going to have different points that go different ways. No, that's okay. I can use this one.
And if they don't line up, you can try rotating the cube.
Yeah. If it don't line up, you can rotate it. And of course, later on, when you're sanding, you can hand sand one of those sides that's a little thicker to try to get it looking more symmetrical. I see you got a brand new plexiglass shield here, so I think most of the things, if I do it, it's going to go that way, so you're safe. So one of the things, like I say, you want to make sure your tailstock is locked down good and tight, and your coil, turn it by hand. Now I'm going to turn this on for just a moment. Now you see you got two shadows right here. You can start turning these on either end. I find out that you start on the tailstock end, you turn to get your three wings first. The reason that is, you've got more wood on the outside supporting the fibers of the wood. If you turn from the headstock down, then when you're coming in from the tailstock end, the wood is going to be thinner and it's more likely to split out. And that's another reason why I've got the CA glue on here. Now I said, you can use any of the tools in your arsenal. I'll experiment with a couple different ones here just to show you how they work. Now I'm going to put my face shield on. Now this is just a standard Sorby gouge. And you should turn a little bit higher speed. It seems to work better. If you turn slow speed, you're getting a lot of knocking. Of course, you turn to the speed that you feel comfortable with. Okay, now you see, I still have plenty of room right here on the tip. So I want to make a rebate right here, a recess, so that you can see where the piece comes from. What do you need, Governor?
Let's go get your tape, so you can mention that if you want.
Tape? It's in there somewhere. I'll get it in a little bit. Clear?
I'm clear. I'm a professional. I turn it this way instead of this way.
Well, you got to turn some both ways. Okay.
There's
Now.
the tape.
Thank you. Now,
I don't use tape.
Now this is the new Viceroy tool. Did you hand that out?
Yep.
Okay, this is the new Viceroy tool from Mike Hunter. He comes to SWAT, but you can order them online. What's really nice about these, you only have a small area that it cuts. You won't get a grab like you will on some of your other tools. So I'm just experimenting right now to show you the difference in the tools. Yes, and that's why you need to wear your smock or something, so when you go in, you don't take chips all over the house. So you see how this tool's cutting? Pretty smooth. Now, normally I have a shorter tool rest, and I'll come straight in with the tool rest. Let's see if this one will do that. That way I've got more support for the cutter, preferably. And here, I don't know if you can pick this up. You can see I don't have a perfect arc. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get, is that perfect arc right here. And of course then once you move the tool rest, turn your workpiece. But sometimes it's nice to have a piece of black or white paper underneath so you can see that shadow. Let's pass that one around. That's the Viceroy.
And by the way, pointy edges hurt fingers.
Yes,
Yeah.
these are extremely sharp. Don't go like that.
Oh, no, I'm talking.
He's talking about these
Yeah.
these things
That
right here.
and that.
Now, I don't think I can use this one right here. Let me try.
Sure you can.
What I'm doing right now is I'm just removing some of this because I'm going to put a tenon on both sides eventually. That way I'll be able to hold this, because I'm going to cut this section out to make the lid for the box. And I'll use a real thin parting tool. We call them the Hager parting tool because Stacy Hager makes them. And then I'll turn a tenon back here to hold the box, and after I cut this out, I'll be able to turn the rest of the inside. It makes sense? It will in a little bit. Now the other tool that you can use, like I say, let's see if I got the number 1. This is what the door prize is. This is a number 1 hunter tool. I use it probably for 90% of my turning nowadays. I do use the Sorbies, because to see how small it is, I can get down into the bottom here. Question?
Show the camera.
Number 1 hunter tool. Straight tool. So last, what, 3 or 4 years I've had a door prize for one of these, and some of you guys I know have taken them home. But one of the things I always caution is keep your hand behind a tool rest. Because out there it would be kind of brutal really quick. So, any questions on that? I'm going to turn this down a little bit more so I can make a tenon right here. Now try to get the tenon straight. If you get it tapered, it will throw it out of the chuck. How am I doing, boss?
Yeah,
Me?
not the way I do it.
Good thing. Alright, turn your piece to make sure that your tool rest is clear because you do have those points out there. Now you can see, maybe from back here, you can see the shadow. So I'm going to start turning this shadow away right here. Another thing is when you're turning, try not to stand directly in line. Like I say, this is probably the safest that you can turn because between centers it's not going to come off unless the wood breaks. If you do this, and then again, I want to put tenon on this end, and we got those points to turn with. Now let's stop and look at it a little bit. Probably move my tool rest in, because see, I still got flats right up here. All right. I'm having a hard time seeing that shadow, so hold on.
Tape. I gave you tape.
You gave me what?
I gave you tape.
Tape? I don't want tape. Fluid tape.
Why not your bedway? Tape is on the bedway.
Yeah, it's not blending in with the bed weight very well. Now I can see it much better. See if I got those corners down. Just about. Yeah. Good, pretty good. All right, I turned the tool over and did kind of a pull cut. All right, pretty good. Okay, now I've got a tenon here so I can hold this piece, but before I actually turn that around, and like I say, you can hold this in the chuck right now if you want to, but I'm going to take out a little bit more here to make the lid for the box. Turn it, make sure you're clear.
Cut down your banjo. There you go.
If you take this too far down, you can say like this one right here, you don't have anything left for a lid, which is okay. You can always use something else and make a lid. And I have several other smaller examples here. You could put different kind of wood. That's a mesquite. So then I can hold that, and when I get down to that, I can make that lid fit this box. Okay, so now I need to get part of that lid out of there. And you can use any parting tool that you got. This is a regular Robert Sorby, and this is the Stacy Hager parting tool right here. So I normally will start with the larger one to get me a little bit of opening. I will say you need to be really careful of these wings, because if you're cutting in at this angle and you hit that wing, well, you might as well throw it away.
No, make a smaller bolt.
Without wings. Now, how many people thought I was going to go ahead and cut that completely off? It would be interesting. Okay. Well, one of the things, you can sand this afterwards when you put it in a chuck, but sometimes your chuck might get in the way. So how do you sand this outside? With the lathe running? Very carefully. So, I normally start with 400 grit sandpaper.
You used 80 grit.
But no, I'll probably start with like 120. That's a pretty smooth cut. So when you're sanding these, you want to keep the edge of the sandpaper down. You don't want to get the top in because it'll catch those wings. And it's a little bit fun. There, the tips of my fingers is actually touching the wood, not the palm. Like that. Now, if your lathe has reverse, you can actually reverse this. I don't think this one does, does it?
Yeah.
There's
Toggle
a switch
switch
somewhere.
right above the speed.
Oh, there it is underneath. So if you're doing it in reverse,
You gotta be-
you've got to be careful on that, because now you can't really see what you're doing as much.
Stand on the other side.
So you stand here. Oh, let me get the vacuum going. This might give you kind of a better idea. Normally I'll sand the same grit forward and in reverse. Not all the way down and come back. this is 320. I normally myself, I stop at 320, but you could go higher. One of the other things you can actually do is sand these off the lathe with a hand sander, because I've got little scuff marks right there. I might have to do that. And I use the sanding stuff from Vincent Welch for doing that. So that's how you do the sanding on the outside. Inside's a little more tricky, but you can also sand on the inside. And also another thing that you do is when you're sanding, you can, after you stop with each grit, then you sand the surface of your wings like this to get any fuzz off. Or you can actually use your sanding mandrel and your drill to do that, which would be like this one here. So any way you want to sand it, you can do that. Any questions up to this point? So that is a little bit dangerous, but if you use caution, you can only throw 1 or 2 pieces of sandpaper off, you know, like I did.
If you get
So-
hurt, you didn't see us demo.
No red stuff. So now, since this is this is jet, isn't it? At home, I have the one-way lathes, and they all have the 1" 8, except when I want to use the Beast, I use his 2436. Let's see, chucks. Here we go. Now, of course, your chuck needs to kind of match the tenon size that you've got. And I found out the one-way Talon with the #1 jaws worked really good, or the Stronghold with the serrated jaws.
Yeah, the #1. Better than the Talon, because the Talon doesn't have serrates in it.
So what I normally do is just put that in there lightly and bring the tailstock back up to where the cone is to get it centered. And then tighten down your chuck. Now, one of the things I probably won't do here, because I didn't bring his Talon chuck, if you have 2 chuck, you can put the Tolly tailstock adapter on this side, put your chuck on it, hold your tenon. When you cut it off, it's held. You know what the Tolly tailstock adapter is by now, right?
I got one.
No? Well, if I was to use the other chuck, I guess I could. Yeah, I can use the other chuck. This is kind of neat. I find a wrench. You pass that one around. This was one that's with aluminite die. So, 1 inch.
No, that's cactus juice, not aluminite.
Yeah, that's right, cactus juice. How many of you have been using the Alumilite from Courtesy back for pens and stuff like that? That's pretty neat stuff too. What's that? It gives you problems?
Huh?
Alumilite giving you problems?
Oh, yeah, on big pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the tailstock adapter, it's made, it goes on the one-way live center. If you got a 1 1/4 8, you can screw your chuck on here, put it on your live center. There's no honor amongst thieves. Jet, Powermatic, took the one-way live center exactly, made it exactly the same, only anodized it black, and sell it on their legs. So,
Is that leg still in reverse?
It don't matter.
Okay.
Not at this time, it don't matter. I guarantee you I'd find out as soon as they turned it on. Now this is one of the Bulldog chucks from Paul Judkins. I really like them. I'm just hoping he gets some more jaws on these little chucks. Okay. Let's see, which way are we in? Forward. It is now. But even if it was in reverse,
Tailstock's not.
Bearing,
yeah,
your
Tailstock.
tailstock's not locked down, is it?
no.
No.
Okay. But it won't matter if which way you're turning that, yeah, as long as it's in there. Now the advantage of the tailstock adapter, the Tolly tailstock adapter, when I turn this, it won't go flying off. Otherwise, when I'm turning it, I have to stop right there at the last and just break the little nub that's inside.
What's the lose?
The parting tool, there it is. Trying to hide it. I still wear a safety shield.
Always.
That's the advantage of having a tailstock adapter on the tail. Now, I might have got something a little crooked there, but it holds it. Okay, so now I can take that back off. And since I have it on here, then I can use this later to form the top of the box. Okay. Kind of get the tailstock out of the way for right now. Okay, any questions up to this point?
Yeah, they wanna know why I gave you the tape.
If you're worried about it, and I normally do not put the tape on it at home, once you turn a bunch of these, and like I say, they are habit forming. If you put tape on your points, and you want to put the tape the opposite way the lathe is turning. Now obviously if you're going to be sanding, you got to take this off or you'll be sanding the tape. I don't do that at home.
Yeah.
And what you can also do on your tape is, if I can get this back up a little bit, is to leave a tab like that, if it works. You know when you're getting close. Back off.
You can also mark the tape with black Sharpie, so it gives you a more pronounced shadow coming around.
Yeah.
I don't use tape either.
Why
But
don't you
it's an
bring-
option. It's a safety option. So now we determine that we don't use tape. Let's get the tape off there. Any questions on that? I have used tape on some things in the past when my hand is getting close. So. You notice I pull my hand back and come around. Don't go this way. What I'm doing right there is just moving some of the meat, if you will. I want to get down below the surface of where the side is. a little ridge right there. Now, one of the things that I want to do is measure my piece that's over here,
That your calipers again.
and you can use the calipers to do that. Now, obviously, I've got to turn this down because it's not perfectly round, but I can measure just about where it's going to be, and I'll make my box a little bit smaller right now. Now, if you hold this right here and you turn your lathe on, you're in trouble, right? So what you want to do is, where's that pencil, is mark it.
It's up on the camera.
The camera's okay or not?
No.
No. There we go.
So you can mark your wood and say, I made it too large. I can come back in here right now. So I want my box to go there. Now, if this isn't large enough, you can use mesquite on here, you can walnut, you can get another piece of maple, you can color it like that piece that went around. There's a lot of options there. Now, to make a box in hollow block, you can use any of the tools in your arsenal there too. You got a round scraper, thank you. You can use it. You can tell I wear this every day at home, right? I need to move my tool rest up just a bit. Now, if you want to, you can actually put a drill in the tailstock and drill in a little bit also. So that's one of the tools that you can use. You can also use the Hunter #1 tool. Well, it seems to be bouncing, so let me get another Hunter tool. This is the Hercules tool. Where's the Viceroy?
What?
The Viceroy. Did it get back up here?
No, there's a way.
All right, well, let me use the Big Brother Viceroy. Sometimes that center point's the hardest to get. So this is the larger of the two Viceroy tools. So for smaller stuff, this works really good, but this has more meat, less chatter. Now, you can sand these basically the same way I did with the outside, but you have to be really, really careful because on the inside it's more likely to grab. Now what I normally use is the 1-inch sanding pad, and then I've got all the different grits in there, but I'll just put 150 grit on here right now to show you.
Is that from Vince also?
Yeah, Vincent Welch sells the 1-inch, 2-inch, and 3 1/4 inch. So he has all those. And they work really good for the inside because you're not sanding it very much. Everybody likes the sand, don't they? I think that's the worst part of the whole thing. Anything, any of them. And you can turn the vacuum on. Yeah, I'm not going to sand very much. And then on the inside, and that's where I normally throw off the pad. I burn up the Velcro and I have to replace the Velcro. So that's how I do that. Now, for the lid, see if we get this off here. I want to keep this in here for right now. Any questions up to that point? Now this is where I'm going to fit the lid to that. And I would sand that, like I say.
Who makes that 1-inch sanding pad?
Vincent Welch.
Vincent's Wooden Wonders.
The door prize has got his contact information on it. He has 1 inch, 2 inch, and 3 1/8 inch, I believe it is.
4 1/4, 3 1/4, whatever it is.
So now to make the lid, I want to get this round, and then I might turn it too small. What I'm going to do here is remove most of the point, because this is going to be on the inside of the box and this will be on the top of the box. You know, at home you got everything where you need it. Right?
Right.
Maybe you can find it.
No, I like that.
The smaller piece, because I'm standing completely out of the way, I'm not putting my face shield on. Shame on me. Okay, what I want to do is see if I turn that too small. And I've got quite a bit of play here. So I can take out the box a little bit more, or I can carve the lid down if I need to. Oh, I got plenty. So what I'm doing here is just measuring the outside diameter so that I know that will fit in there. And I'm going to take a little more out of that lid in a little bit. But I want to clean up the inside here a little bit more. Now, I would normally go ahead and sand this because this is going to be the inside of the lid. You could put a little hole in there and put a little diamond in there, or a little trinket or something like that. How are we doing on time?
Doing fine. 50 minutes.
15?
50, 50.
50 more minutes?
Yeah, we gotta be out of here by then.
Oh, well, don't want to ruin that up, you know. So now this will be the top of the lid, if you will. So I want to make that kind of a pleasing shape. See if I got the corners off. Nope, I got a little bit more to go there.
Now I can see it.
Ah, okay. And there again, I would sand this through all the grits. This I'd probably use the regular sander on, the drill with the bit. Meant to mention our son Johnny's here, or was earlier. I don't know, he may have left because he has to work in the morning. Now, I'd sand that more, that's pretty bad right there. But I want to put a finial on that. Now I found a set of drill bits. I've got them here somewhere. That is outstanding. You get that on the, okay? I've got a set here, I'll pass around. They're not a door prize. And I also have a handout, if you're interested. I don't get anything from this company, but I just think they're great. They also have machinist drill bits. These are brad point drill bits here. The thing is, if you have a long brad point and you're trying to drill into wood, it'll wobble a lot on you. These stubbies, they don't wobble near as much. So now I have to make a decision. Do I want to put a 3/16 1/4 inch tenon in there or a 5/16 tenon? Well, when I make my finials, I have a perfect little set of tools that I gauge. These is little ignition wrenches. You can get these at O'Reilly's and other places. They're the ignition wrenches. And I just put them on a little, what is that, carabiner, whatever they call them. So when I get ready to turn my tenon, if I'm going to use a 1/4 inch, I can just gauge that shaft. And as you noticed on the finials, wherever they went around, those have a little shaft on them that's been gauged that will fit in this. So when I want to, pass it around, so when I want to do that, I'll pull out my 1/4 inch. I have used all the way down to 1/8 of an inch. That 1/16 or 3/32 bit, I haven't really found much of a need for that yet. But I'm sure there's going to be a day. And you know, there's this thing going here. Whoever dies with the most tools wins when they go to heaven. Is that right?
You're out in front.
No, what?
You're out in front.
Yeah. I mean, leading the pack. So, now, to drill a hole, you want to turn your lathe speed down. You don't want to turn real fast speed. And it only needs to be 3/16 of an inch deep. And then you have the place to put your little finial in. Of course, like I say, I would sand this more. This is a demo piece, so And of course, if you go too far, you'll have a little hole on the inside, and then you can put a little eye screw in there and put a little trinket in there, if you want to, or those diamond earrings. So now that I have this, get my bit out of there, that would kind of hurt. You have a couple options on how you want to fit the lid to the box. So, move some stuff. I'd like to get a jaw a little bit between this one and this one here. So it'd be nice to have this one here. I use this for most of my finials, and it works really good for that.
He's got one.
I'm sure he does. I talked to him in SWAT last year.
His ripple jaws is good one to work with. I have that same chuck.
Yeah. I'm looking to get another one at SWAT this year. Now, I've got 10 or 12 chucks. I hate to change jaws. I've talked to Paul on those, and if you lose those little screws, they're common screws. But I always ask him to get me a few extra. I hate to change jaws. I'll buy another chuck with jaws on it before I change jaws.
Right. No, he said nothing.
So the sanding shouldn't be that bad if you hate changing the oil.
I'm sorry?
The sanding
Okay.
shouldn't be that bad if you hate changing the
Thank you
oil.
very much.
Yeah. The sanding, I just hate the sand. As it's dirty, it's dusty, you can see you get it all over you and stuff like that.
Okay.
So now, you can, I want to make this where it just fits inside. Like I say, I'd go ahead and sand all this. It's really rough knot right now, but I want you to see what I'm working on. So now I have this all perfectly round, and I can put this back in and I can re-sand this or I'll make another one. So I use my calipers. Now that I have the outside lid, I'll measure what the lid is, okay? Lock my little set screw down, and then I can look at, oh, that outside black pencil mark's just about right. So now what I'll do is I'll cut right to that and creep up on it just a little bit for the lid to fit. I hope. Okay. Now. I like to use the smaller Sorby tools for the delicate work. The skew and the parting tool. I'm sorry? Oh.
Get your shield on.
So what I like to do is use the point of the skew to cut the fibers of the wood. And then I'll come back in with the parting tool. And if you're getting a little bit of chatter like that, then go with a heavier duty one. Not quite there yet. So now I'll sneak up on it a little bit more. You know that last little cut?
Yeah.
Get pretty close.
One more time.
Yeah, it'll be too loose. But if I get it too loose, I can always put tissue paper around it or napkins or something like that and then put it back in there. There you go.
There you go.
Now, obviously, you know, wood turners like to have a pop fit and lid. That's only to pop the buttons off to show other wood turners you can do it. But I guarantee you guys, ladies, if the guys make it a pop fit and the ladies put their diamond earrings in there and they go pop and they go rolling down the register, who's going to be paying for it? I didn't tell you to make a pop fit lid. Make a loose lid that will come off. Okay? Now, once I have this established, like I say, I would have sanded all this, and I'll do this when I get home. I hate the sand here. I would go ahead and hollow this out a little bit more because I don't need this much of an area for the lid to set on. I would probably go ahead and use a skew and cut this down, something like that, so it's got like a 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch area to set on. And then this is where I would go ahead with the Viceroy tools or whatever you've got in your arsenal and hollow this out. Now, one of the things you have to be careful is not to go through the side and make a funnel out of it. So, I have these, you've probably seen them before, these Tolly little gauges. And there's 3 of them. And I'll just use whichever one I think I need to measure the wall thickness. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but right here we've got a little more than a 1/4 inch wall thickness. So I can take that down more because you don't want a really heavy piece. So, let me turn a little bit more. And about that time is when I go through the side. Now, if you don't have these, that's a little more than 1/8 of an inch. I'd leave it there. You can use the good old standby bow tie calipers. You think that 1/8 of an inch? Something like that. There, you see that right? Maybe there. Okay.
Now, I do the hollowing before I cut the lid.
Yeah, like I say, there's so many different ways. Now, the handout we gave you is just a starting point. So you can turn it from the bottom, but if you turn from both ends to the middle, you've got a bowl. You won't have a 3-sided box, okay? One of the other things that I do is check the depth and just eyeball it from the side, like through the side here, and then I'll cut through right here. Now, if you have a vacuum system, you can use that. And where'd you find my vacuum? And if you don't have a vacuum system,
It was in my,
I got it. I use a vacuum system and then I'll vacuum this. This is I demonstrated this 15 years ago, how to make a threaded adapter and then hollow it out and put foam on it, and I can vacuum chuck this to finish the bottom.
only it's turned around.
Yeah, this would be turned around, this would be on the headstock. You'd bring it back up with the tailstock adapter, line it up, turn on your vacuum, loosen up your chuck, back it away, bring your tailstock up to the point right there, turn that down until you have just a small nub, and then that's a way to do that. But if you don't have a vacuum system, you can put something like this on a 2436 and put this on there, and then this would be up next to the headstock, and your point right there would be in your tailstock, and then you turn it down really small. Or you can use
Jam chuck.
a jam chuck like this right here. This is another small chuck I really like. I turn this to where it just fits in here as a jam chuck, and then I'll have it on the headstock, turn that around and bring it back up and jam it on there, and then turn it down that way. So there's several different options, and I'm just throwing out different things. The article don't cover some of that stuff. Once it gets you started. okay? What else?
Finish?
Hmm?
Are you gonna talk about finish?
No, anybody want to know what kind of finish I use?
You finished?
Any kind of finish you want. But normally, on these small things, I use Rust-Oleum rattle can lacquer from McCoy's. I like it better. There's Def. There's all kinds of stuff. You can actually put 50-50 lacquer and
Standing seal?
well, you can put sanding sealer on first, sand them down, lacquer thinner, and sanding sealer, or Def, 50-50 lacquer. I'll get it straight someday. So you can put any kind of finish on it you want. Now, I will tell you, if you do the stabilization of the box elder, it turns beautiful. It's really nice, but the chips come off of it so fine and so smooth, you hardly have to do any sanding on it. And I really like that, so. Any questions? I think we'll get you out of here in plenty of time. I tell you, these things are very habit forming. I've got a bunch of them. I gave away a bunch of them. They're great gifts, and people really seem to enjoy them, especially the, how did you do that? And when you have the 3 little rings on the bottom, when you hold it with, well, you can do it with the tailstock up there, put the little grooves in there, and then sand that little nub away. But if you have vacuum, you can completely finish it with your vacuum. And I know everybody don't have vacuum. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.